and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am.
Hello there everyone, and welcome to this solstice update with me today. I came to this really beautiful spot. There's this mountain gorge that I like to climb every year, as far as so many other beautiful destinations, as you know. So I'm sorry for a little later update. Solstice is already behind us, but I actually took a 5-day retreat. It was a nature wilderness retreat it was actually very spontaneous. It was meant for this new establishment. It was a journey. It was an assignment that sometimes I get from time to time, and I've learned a lot. As always during such retreats, I always tap into the vast resources of my inner being that otherwise they lie dormant. And this is what today's message will be about: how to achieve, or better yet, not to say achieve, but align with these new aspects of us that go beyond the borderlines of what we've established, we've achieved, we've already integrated. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. So my retreat was beautiful. It was also very challenging from, the perspective of being almost like a nature spirit, nature gypsy, and just traveling along. And the first thing I want to share today is the deepening of the core essence of who we are, which is our main theme. It's our ongoing topic through the unfolding ascension energies that are bringing more light into this planet. So right after solstice here, we had quite a shift in energy, because what happened was that it went really from this hot summer weather on solstice to the next day. This was portal weather, and the winds and the cold, and the wind was blowing in all directions and it was really cold. So it was quite interesting to watch that new upheaval and chaotic energy, because there was lots of lightnings coming in again, as they always do through these gateways. So it was a beautiful alignment and synchronicity. But I want to share with you this newfound state of being that we can only sometimes align with when we go bypass that norm, that routine, that which is already established. So when I was on my nature retreat, I actually ended it with visiting our purest river, which is on the other side of the Alps where I live, this mountain water spring. And it was this beautiful hole, it was encapsulated with the womb of life, it was apparent in the rocks, and many guardians. I've seen so many guardians along the pure nature water spots. And it was this beautiful pool of water, all turquoise and deep blue, and all of a sudden there's nothing, and the water just starts to flow. And it's just amazing. If you happen to see, or you're lucky enough to see a spring of the water, and just before solstice, it's just an amazing experience. So when I was on my trip, it wasn't actually a travel trip. It was more of a mission trip. It's always apparent to me a little afterwards when it's all integrated. I actually seen how my mission is to connect certain gateway spots, and it's a very beautiful sacred assignment, because you don't know where you're going to be next. It's a fully surrendered path. You don't know where you're going to sleep next, where you want to go hike next. It's just simply that surrender of the life force, which I've been talking about and sharing about, or teaching about, for the past few months, especially those of you who've perhaps completed my Tantrika Life Force Mastery course, or moving on maybe to the Cosmic Union and Ascension, which is an even deeper integration phase of the multidimensional ascension process in the physical. You might have felt a certain pull towards that total dissolution of reality. So what I've noticed myself, and this was magnified through this trip, is I'm not guided to do anything in particular, especially now. And with solstice, this just amplified. It's the stage of achieving that state with the total peacefulness of the lake, something like that. And it's the space of deep tranquility and the disconnection, which is more of a detachment or non-attachment from life, of chaos, of life as people are creating it. So recently Spirit shared with me that the reason why I'm not watching anything now, I'm just being outdoors in nature and just, really focusing on my cultivation process and practices, It's really an interesting journey because you will see nothing outside of you influences you, okay? So what I've noticed is when you do that, when you take a journey like that and it's really guided, your body will become more magnetic in terms of knowing what is the right electric impulse for the body, what resonates and what doesn't. I'm going to give you an example, but it's interesting because I've been really deepening the creation pillar purpose and just the essence, embodying my essence, because a lot of people, as you know, they say, well, we're here, we are beings of spirit experiencing material reality, and we have a soul, but in truth we don't have a soul. We are a composition of the soul that is experiencing temporarily this law of creation reality, which is certain density we're experiencing, right? But even though we are on the same planet, we're experiencing different densities, different levels of dimensional perception and attunement. And as some certain people are maybe attuned only to the third dimensional reality, there's a lot of us who go much beyond that, and our consciousness expands in multidimensional levels and ways of perception. But here's an interesting facet: we don't really have a soul unless we bring it into our body. So I want to talk about the magnetization of life force in our process. And this is something that if you're not ready for that, you're going to continuously create through that bound filter of reality, which is there's always something external that is your source. Even if it's just a temporary experience, it's still something that holds value for you and through which you then cultivate your resources, okay? So even with the teachings of materialization and manifestation that occur through mental envisioning, that's such a tiny percentage of what we can achieve, you know, before we truly understand the transformational process of becoming life force initiates and beings who only prosper and materialize abundance through our life force cultivation and mastery. So I'm going to show you that example, how the body knows. So I was just talking to someone I know today, and they've said to me, because I've explained to them my situation right now, because I was just withdrawing my life force from so many things, because these realities, you know, people have opinions, and even in the videos or articles that they've built through their own perception, you know, or something they've came to cultivate it where they are at their level of awareness. When you come to this still point, when you only want to be yourself, your sovereign being, you will notice that even partial fragments of that might influence your reality, what you're creating. So that's why Spirit told me, well, the reason why you're so detached from everything right now is because you're really deepening that state when it's only your reality, when it's only your creation. And that's what a lot of people are missing. We're missing that fine line of what's truly ours and what we're simply creating because the world tells us so, or because it's a belief. And there's a difference between serving the light, you know, a lot of people as light workers and star seeds, whatever, are focusing on, and serving the light within mastery, within refined self-mastery. So today I had this example when I shared with this person that recently I've been noticing a decrease of finances and people having their interest in these things of higher refined spirituality, such as what I offer in my mastery courses and such. And then she said to me, well, but there's also a case of an intentional, you know, decrease of abundance or resources for people like you, and a disconnection of the channels like yours, right, on YouTube, like from the dark side, whatever, okay? And I instantly, when I heard that statement, it didn't resonate with my body. It felt heavy. It felt like we're still using excuses why we are a certain way, why we have a life the way we do, in terms of what's happening in the external reality. That's still not mastery. So there's a difference between seeing reality from the collective level and seeing reality the way you ascribe to it, the way you as a sovereign being created. So during the solstice, I've noticed in myself a deeper cultivation of my true being, and understanding that as a tantrika being, I can only generate abundance, whatever it is, through my life force mastery. It doesn't mean that other people are not included, and people who come, you know, and they share their support and resources, because that's of course really valuable at this time, because beings like us, the higher we go in our awareness, of course there's less and less interest in what we offer, because people are simply not there energetically. They're not holding space there, so therefore they can't understand it. Therefore it's not their value, and therefore they don't support it because it's not their value system, and I completely understand that. But you have to be aware that there's two pictures playing out here. One is that, and I always say it's important that there's an energy exchange, because even what I offer, what I do in these videos and my writings and my blogs, it's all actually intentional. It's all meant to share this higher refined spirituality essence. And it's also work. But people don't always recognize it as work. That's one aspect here. But the other aspect is seeing ourselves as full masters of our own life force process and the magnetization of it. So next time, because I don't have it with me, I will read you again some paragraphs from Barbara Handclau's book, because I've underlined some really beautiful topics there that correspond to this message. But today I just spontaneously came here and I said, look, I'm going to record this solstice message because it's a beautiful time and it's an important time. So from my own perspective, what I have to share with you is that this golden path, the path of illumination, and if you noticed in my last blog on my Ascension, a Diary of an Ascension Pioneer, the title is The Flame of Illumination. So once you start to cultivate that and you really choose that path of illumination, it doesn't mean all of a sudden life will be peachy and all roses and it's all going to be just clear paths ahead and all beautiful and all peachy. It's not what we experience. Even those of us who embody total self-mastery, there's still going to be challenges. There's still going to be aspects when we say, what the heck's happening? Why is this not flowing? Why is that not happening? Because when we go through these passageways, which are actually soul initiation, so it means you're moving from one state of how you manifest your reality to a more refined energy. Once again, you have to refine your value system there at that level. And when you're doing that, your life force energy is being invested in a lot of that process. So it doesn't go out wider in terms of it creates money and resources coming in. So I'm talking about the path of full life force materialization. I'm not talking about mental imaging or physical resources, which we believe we do out of survival and these things. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a full surrender to becoming vessels. Watch my video on becoming a vessel, which is a vessel for pure spirit. And I have an interesting thing to share here, because my mother had a really spirit guided dream tonight. And she said, wait a minute, that was probably the most intense dream I ever had of you. So I was sitting on our couch, which we have in our living room. And I was just in this meditation pose. And when she came in the room, it was like this white light around me. And it was like a whirlpool of energy and white lightnings. It was just sucking me. It was like pulling me out of this world. And she was like, no, don't go. Don't leave me yet. And I was completely depersonalized. I was completely neutral, benevolent. I was in this higher state of being. And she was like, please don't go yet, you know. And then she woke up, but she saw like this amazing pull, like these lightnings just pulling me. And it was like this whirlpool, a vortex of energy. And I was laughing when she told me the dream, because it really represents that complete trust of what pulls you in the moment, which sometimes will be challenging, because when you will shift those timelines, because as you know, your inner initiations, or the level where you exist in your templating, will influence the way you live your life, will influence your reality and the things happening. So when we're shifting a template, and sometimes the template is tinier, and sometimes we shift major templates, and there's a total rewrite happening. This is not going to be a stage where all will flourish, because so much life force will go into this process, and I've shared this with you before. And this might be mentally appealing to some people now, but you have to really feel it. You have to feel it in your own life. You have to see, because when I do these things, right, I go to these wilderness retreats, and I go totally without expectation. I don't know where the life force will pull me. I don't have plans. I don't have even a map. I don't have anything. And that way, I'm learning to cultivate that complete trust when I trust the pull, just that pull. So what happened in this trip, we took this beautiful waterfall gorge hike, and it was totally spontaneous. I thought I'm going to go somewhere, but then the car was just driving somewhere else. And as we were returning from that trip, what we actually saw, I was so amazed. I saw a seagull, an ocean animal, an ocean bird, in the mountains, and he was flying up the stream of the river, but flying towards the seaside. And I know that's the other side of the Alps that kind of watches towards the sea, but it was still far off location. And I just turned, and he just flew right like next to me, and then continued the flow of the river. And I was looking at the bird, just going and feeling nothing but total goosebumps all over my body. So it's things like that. It's these experiences that will tell you how much this pull of life, this life force pull, is strengthening when we do the life force work. When we don't, we're always going to be, you know, we're still going to be in a certain dimensional attunement, like this is like that, reality is like this, it's like this. And at a certain level, as you know, we're just going to have to, because it's going to be an automatic process when we're ready. And I have to let everything of that go, even what my friend shared with me, right, in that statement. And I know it was a well-meant statement, like, look, this is happening, you know, take care of yourself or something like that. But I felt it as a fearful message. I felt it in my body, like this is coming from fear. It's not coming from love, because when you truly are a master of yourself, even when for, let's say, for weeks you don't get payments, you don't get money, you don't get that support, which in the material world we need and we require, it's still that complete trust and being completely open and naked with the experience, because no matter what, regardless of the situations, you trust. Because you trust that golden path of illumination you're taking, you have partake in a very specific way for a very good reason. It's not like, okay, there's exit points here and there. Once you start to walk the golden path, there are no exit points. It's not like, okay, until you get to a certain threshold. And this is why people don't cross that threshold, because before they still have these safety nets. And like, oh, there's a shortcut here, back. And that's the thing. Just today, when I went to hike this gorge, I met this person, and it was a man sitting on a rock, and we had a short conversation. And he said he left his job, and he's just hiking a little. He doesn't know what to do next. And a lot of people are experiencing that. But he said, well, either way, I can just go back. I can get another job, and still it's like a new beginning, but it's still not that inner transformation. I said, yes, exactly. Because there's still exit points. At a certain level, when you go beyond all of that, you transcend all of that, you can't go back. And this is what the feeling was when I actually ended the trip. We came home after 5 days of being completely surrendered to nature. This is such freedom, liberation experience that I have each time when I do that. It gets my life force mastery higher each time I do that. And I take that time, and it's also an assignment in what I do with the planetary grid and with the earth healing. And it's really interesting. It's all happening, not me even thinking about it. It's just happening because I'm just surrendered. And when I came home, I felt like this sense of, oh, I don't want to be home. I want to be back there. And this sense of nostalgia for the experience, it just ended, right? We went through the mountain pass, and then we were in one side, we go across, and there's another side back home. And like, there's no turning back. I'm going home. Why? I don't want to go. And it was the first time I really felt sad after that retreat, because it was really a completely surrendered flow of life force, complete trust, without thinking, well, this is going wrong. That's not taken care of. That's not provided. And it was such a beautiful feeling. And I was sad to let that go of the experience. But remember, the experience is the trigger to initiate that. But then it's about whether we hold that within ourselves or not. So you can have an experience of leaving your job behind. But then again, if you don't become that freedom, and if it's just a temporary experience, you're going to get another job, which maybe you don't like. And it's just another cycle. So whenever we complete these cycles, and we made a circle route just as well. So it was a complete cycle completion, a total completion. And it felt so good. At the same time, it felt nostalgic. And like, I want to go back. But this is the thing. You can't go back, because the experience in itself is just the key that helps you through the mirroring process to unlock that. But when you really become a master of yourself, when you're truly operating at the level of mastery, not just that, okay, I'm searching, I'm seeking something, right? But I'm always going back to the beginning. Is you never can go back. Whatever experience you have, every threshold is a new pedestal from which you jump even forward, on and on. And people don't understand these cycles. That's what they take their life so circular, right? It's always a circulation of energy within the same circle. But what we do in the mastery journey is we keep expanding our circles, so that these cycles that experience their completion are also coming to greater synthesis. And without synthesis, I've shared this with you before, you can't move forward. So even when you have these journeys, like let's say for instance I do, there has to be synthesis at the end. You have to see, what was I really doing there? What was I, it's not just like you go somewhere, you come back, you're back in your routine. It doesn't take place that way. So when I'm on these journeys, what I also experience is, because I'm always with nature, I get a lot of answers, right? That come back through this reflection. So I want to share with you one of the recent messages also that I received, because we were meditating with the trees. Okay, so we took, after the car retreat, which we took for 5 days, we went to this place, which we call the Chalk Lake, and it's a beautiful turquoise colored lake. And nowadays, there's a lot of people coming and a lot of tourism, and the place is losing its sacredness. The place is always sacred, but the energy around it, the environment. And so what took place is, afterwards, we saw, because we were driving through this area again of immense deforestation, and it felt like it's even worse than in our area, right, which is all very close, but still. And I just said, I really want to know, I want to feel what's with this process, what's with this tree process, because all of a sudden these beautiful areas that used to be forest are all chopped down, and it doesn't look pretty, to be honest, and it doesn't feel the same way, so sometimes I experience these waves of sadness. So we went to sit on a meadow and we meditated, and all of a sudden, just by being surrendered, not even asking like, oh, I need this, the spirit of the spruce comes. And spruce trees, these are the main ones that are being chopped down now, that are experiencing the bug and the whole deforestation process that surrounds this. And all of a sudden, it was, I can't explain it because it wasn't like sentence per sentence, it was very spiraling information of light. It was this deeper picture or version of the ascension process, even with nature. So I'm going to try to summarize what the spirit of the spruce tree was sharing with me. It was very beautiful because it was just like the group consciousness of it just came forth, and it showed me like this bigger picture of what's really taking place. So as you know, we are going through immense earth changes, because as the surrounding space in the cosmos, we're traveling through a different field of energy. The earth is now magnetizing through her own field a different experience. So I've read about many different catastrophes that occurred in ages past. And I don't know, once there was this example, in Santorini, when Thera, the volcano, erupted. It was not the only thing happening, but there was actually a comet that fell, right? So there was a comet, and it was prophesied before that this would occur, and it was given to the oracles. So what occurred is there was a disaster that ruined most of the life there, most of the culture there. And the lesson was, well, we always begin again. Creation and the cycles of creation, they always begin anew. But here's the thing, right? What was the interesting process about this is, when you think about it, that the earth actually magnetizes this experience. So earth as a being knows what it's magnetizing even now. So what the spirit of the tree, of the spruce, was showing me was that there's a whole bigger process we're not always seeing. We're seeing the minute picture and we say, well, this is happening, or trees are falling down. Why is this happening? Why are they cutting them down? Why are these areas of complete lack of forest now? So what they've shown me is that ascension, as you know, is multidimensional experience. As humans experience ascension, planet is experiencing ascension, and it's all a parallel journey. Although there's a little bit of the different experience. So we're talking about energetic changes now. And as humans who are in this dimensional fusion and awakening, we're feeling those changes. So imagine nature. Nature is, it's like the clothing or the body of Gaia, right? It's that fields, it's the dimensional fields that when these changes happen, they experience that first. So they were showing me that just like the humans, right, that have their will, the trees also have their own evolutionary process, as you know. So they were showing me that, of course, it's also connected with people not treating trees properly, and the certain parts or types of trees, they were weakened in their own life force. But because I receive all the guidance through life force understanding, they were showing me that because of these changes, and as you know, the big wave was last year, was in 2017, was one of the ascension waves. So they showed me that if the tree, in terms of the body, as the energy that it carries, the vibrational frequency it holds, if the tree is not capable of withholding that energy shift, and we've had that passing from 2017 now to 2018, as humans, because our ascension is a little different, we're given that lag behind time, right? I'm going to explain this as well. But with the trees, it's different because they're direct, or the first source spring of Gaia, of nature, as she's shifting. So the trees, those that couldn't hold high enough frequency with these cosmic changes occurring and these waves coming in, they've simply, it's almost like they've disintegrated their bodies, they left their bodies. So when you look at the forest now, we look up, there's full of these gray colored dried up trees, which is what the process with the bug, with the tree bug that occurs. And I said, well, but why that way? And the tree spirit said, because with the bug, it's almost like, when the human gets a bug or a virus, we either upgrade to the next level or something happens to us. So some people even die because you're not ready to hold that frequency yet. It's all about your embodiment process. And this is why the soul embodiment process is of major importance now, because when you can't do it, when the timing comes, you're not going to be given the option to, let's hold you still on this lower density frequency. So with the trees, because they're direct, instant reaction to energetic changes, as you know, the nature first shows these changes. Humans, we can, because we're beings of will, we're given free choice, whether we're going to integrate this now or a little later, or we're never going to do it, or, So with the trees, because they're this direct embodiment of Gaia, when these changes are happening, they're simply either moving on or they're losing their bodies. But they're using the bug because it's a fast exit point. So as you know, the tree spirit leaves the trunk of the tree or the whole tree very, very slowly. And I remember I've read or heard this once, and it's just the ultimate truth. As you know, with humans, sometimes we also develop diseases like cancer, things like that, so we can have our exit point as well. But with the trees, I'm sorry, there's a fly on my lens. Just didn't want to leave. So when the spirit of the tree wants to have that, fast change, it wants to just move, it will choose that, so it magnetizes the experience. So we say, well, the bug came. Well, what really called something in? When you attract a relationship, it's not just coming to you, you're magnetizing it towards yourself. And that with the trees is also a relationship, right? So what they were showing me is that these trees were simply the ones that could not hold, and because a lot of times as well, the human component is here as well, because humans have mistreated nature a lot, so they were weakened in their energetic field. But those trees that were able to hold enough magnetic space, they went through the shift, and this is happening the same way with our bodies. But you might ask yourself, well, then why are people in a very low density still here with all these changes? Is because, again, this is a planet of will and the free will. So humans are learning a process of mastery. It's a whole totally different process than what nature goes through and what nature experiences. So when the human evolution is happening, just like with the trees, right? You might say, well, trees left their bodies, there wasn't an evolution. And that's what they were showing me. Even when this happens, there's still evolution. There is always evolution, because, even when souls, when they don't learn a certain lesson, they go back to spirit side. It's not that they didn't learn anything. They might repeat it, but this time with the knowledge they had, but not mastering the lesson. So there is always evolution present with the experience component. Okay, we just don't have the vision as humans to see that. But I must share with you that during this gateway experience, during this wilderness trip, I had a deep knowing. I had such a knowing, such a longing just to, because when I'm with nature, I can't explain this. It's not just I go out, people have fun, they hike, they go back home, they're happy. I'm always, in my mind, is like always with nature. It's like I'm always there, even when I'm at home. I'm just longing to be there. And sometimes I feel like my spirit is flying high above those mountains, and I want to be everywhere, and I want to be here and there, and this sometimes exhausts me as a being, a physical being. But what spirit is showing me, I'm not a human spirit, I'm a nature spirit. This consciousness is just different, and it depends on the mission. And the more I'm in these experiences and I'm with them, the more I'm feeling this truth, and I'm at peace with that, and knowing that I might not have the belonging that other humans have in the way they do with their human relationship and things. I feel very beautiful with what I am, and starting to accept it and starting to be one with it, and know that what I know is what I know, and it's in the feeling side of life through how this expresses itself. So moving on back to the trees, what they've also shown me is with the human, because it's different, right? Ascension is our choice. So with them, it's kind of like decided because they're part of the nature, but we have a will. So let's say there's many different offerings that they're given through these cosmic gateways, that each one is an offering. Each one has, when each gateway occurs, like now we had solstice, right? With each gateway, there's a new, it's like a new divine dispensation of light that says, come on, those of you who are ready, are you willing to move forward or not? So then the human chooses through the component of will, moves forward, or, continues to stay in that vibration. until there's this threshold time, which is like a time in between, the times in between which we're living now. There's always going to be like this until the point when there's so much light quotient that this third density experience will no longer be provided for, will no longer be a choice on this planet. That's when these people that we say, why are they still on the planet and they're just doing fine? We don't understand this. We can't judge things like this. They're choosing their own experience as they are. It's not like something you can just kill them off like ants, you know, even don't do that with ants either. I'm just saying it's not something we decide upon. And yet it's also divine will through which this human will of making choice, of refining our choice is a composite of. It's intertwined within this bigger divine will. It's just this will. So in my mother's dream of me, I was in this higher surrendered will. I had no more ego in thinking, well, I need this and I have desire and I have to stay here. I was just surrendered. If I go, I go. It's okay. Because if I do, it means I'm ready to go. It means there's nothing left there for me. Okay? So in that state, think of the ascension as this higher process through which we on each level where we are magnetizing our experience in that level. For that, we need to cultivate life force through amplifying magnetization process so that we can achieve abundance on the level where we are. So we might say someone who works 8 hours a day at a very hard job, they have lots of money, maybe they never enjoy it. They work very hard for it, yes. But do they have a higher form of abundance? Maybe not. So then they move to the next level. Maybe they leave their job, they start something new, they start to be more creative, working from their soul. Again, they have that, but maybe they're still putting too much focus on work. Maybe they're not surrendered to other things in life. So this is how it's like the spiral unfolds and it continues. But on each level where we are, we have to learn to magnetize on that level. Otherwise, we will be depleted resourcefully and abundantly from that level because we haven't created a template on that level. Because either way, when we're transcending certain levels, we're still physical beings. That's why the magnetization process is so crucial. And they did that in many ancient rites, and I'm going to read you the next video, I hope, from the book, share with you some beautiful examples. But what they've also shared with me, I need to pass on to you, is that when those beings, through free will, that decide to move forward and decide to, you know, each time you're given an opportunity to either go up or stay where you are, right? So each time you do go up, there might be challenges on that level because you haven't fully sealed the deal, or you haven't sealed your created template. You're still kind of in flux and it feels chaotic and you're not getting resources and you don't feel supported because the elemental structure, the elemental base of the whole matter hasn't been completed. There hasn't been synthesis yet. So you might have an experience or many of them where you feel like I'm on this next level, I'm flying. And you come down to earth, this is not what I've imagined, and it's still challenges and this and that. And the materialization process did not occur because the synthesis is not there. So through the synthesis, then we once again raise the life force, we pull it through that level, and then we continue. So those of you who want to go further in your journey, continuously going further, I really recommend you to do the self-mastery course at the Tantrika level or beyond, which is really deeply important and appreciated as well because it helps to support my work and my free sharing, what I can give freely, which I always do so, that my path and my physical part is also covered, okay? So the trees have shared with me also that from this perspective of the will, ascension through will, is that the more people that choose that, right, the more we're bringing to the collective light quotient of the whole, right, of the collective experience, which means the more we do that, the faster we speed up the process where this, what we called the third dimensional matrix no longer exists. Because there was so much of the outpouring and pouring into the light grid of that informational understanding which you achieve through inner mastery and the neutralized polarization within you on each level, in each gateway, then you come to a level where you feel, wow, I'm actually not just doing this for myself, I'm contributing, so I'm speeding up the whole process. And this is when, at the collective level, there will be no more choice. Like, hold this level, move up, or be left behind. Because there won't be any more template at that dimensional level, at that density experience at that time. Because so much of the light infusion of the liquid light quotient will go there, that which was an old experience will become archaic or no longer possible. So they've shown me this in so many higher perspectives that my neutral assessment of everything really grew. So now whenever I go somewhere and I see these areas of deforestation, I know I'm doing this energy balancing work, because you have to know this is not making things up. But every time I go out and take a nature trip, that day I pass exactly through the route when they're chopping down trees. I'm like, why? Why is this always like this? Why do I have to go this route? And I feel like Spirit is laughing, you know, like, you know why. But it's not easy. I can't stand the sound. The noise is so loud and it's terrible, and it's not a nice energy. But when and if you are a neutral force of divine love, you can amplify through the magnetization process the field of the light quotient that goes into that, whatever kind of process it is, by just being. And I've been so active, you have to know, in this 8 years, I've created so much material and resources for people who really want to ascend into this life force mastery. Not just ascend mentally and thinking what ascension is, and it's not a part of the new age at all, but for people who really want to go deeper and much higher in their experience. And many people are not ready. They're just listening to the free videos. They're mentally saying, okay, I resonate with this and that. But there's only like a few dedicated people who are actually doing the inner transfiguration process, which can not occur if you haven't done the transformation and transmutation first. So the transfiguration process is directly linked with the synthesis component. So I've shared with you, you first go through that activation, you go into that initiation, you've entered a new space of vibration. Now you have to learn how to navigate your reality, how to manipulate matter from that level of your density. Because it's difficult sometimes, because you were used to doing it that way. Now, what the heck? I'm different vibrationally, but now how do I establish a template of living, of being on each new level? So this is where the life force mastery comes in. This is where that shortcut path, or going back or retreating into the into the old and familiar and comfortable, no longer can come into play. And that's why I feel so many people are not ready to make that shift, because they're liking that comfort zone when they are, even when they're talking about ascension, but not truly ascending with Gaia as those beings who are with their own will instigating the process each time. And knowing that the soul is always there. It's always like a cheerleader. It's cheering you on. But as it's happening, you're bringing the soul into your body. Without the soul being brought into the body, there can be no magnetization process. That's why it's kind of like unanimous process, the magnetization of life force with soul embodiment. And I've been teaching this for the last few years of my journey. But before all, these 8 years were so hyper and so intense, because I did a lot of content. I was so busy. Every time I was out in nature doing nature work, my own initiation, I came back home, worked all evening on the computer, and I didn't get that which I'm now experiencing, which is this higher mastery level. I couldn't go there because I was always fueling this, always fueling the creation template that I was building, and for Ascension Pioneers and people who want to go higher. But as you know, and just recently I saw this, someone made a video, right, about gurus, and they compared, in the video they compared 2 different gurus. And they said, well, this one was a master, this one wasn't, this one is too broad. They might be a mystic, but they're not master. And I'm thinking, well, a lot of this movement now is for people to not go beyond what we call the guru. The guru is maybe a way shower, but what are they showing? What are they way showing? Is it what you want to become ultimately? Is it something you think you have to do because there's a higher being in consciousness and you're looking at them and you're kind of like wanting to repeat that, but it doesn't go that way? So it's not just being a way shower, but it's what are we showcasing? What are we really bringing through? And in my own example, what I'm showing, I'm demonstrating through my own being, my own devotion process, is that complete life force liberation, mastery, and cultivation, which is that orgasmic bliss union, the cosmic union. If you haven't considered taking the course, maybe one day you will, but it's a super awesome course which teaches you how to really, really understand yourself as a huge part of this mega multidimensional process, and how to do that and how to cultivate that and to bring that into your practice. So every passageway, we're going to have to create a template there. That's the main message today. And from the bigger picture, what is the ascension of nature and our human ascension, we have to see that. So I'm going to give you one more example. This year, as you know, I've shared with you a lot these pictures on Instagram of these yellow blossoming trees, which were everywhere by the water, on the mountains, just blossoming at different levels and at different time zones, different timelines. But they were just so gorgeous. And I was asking people, and I haven't seen them before. I'm in here for 5 years now, and I haven't seen these yellow blossoms like everywhere. And then nature told me, well, that's the 5th dimensional expression now, and it's all in bloom. While at the same time, we're also seeing like trees being, moving out of what only remains the physical corpse or whatever, right? The physical density matter, but the life force went away. So we're calling in the experience, whatever it is, through the magnetization process. How you do that, how you cultivate through life force mastery, it's all in my courses. This is something I cannot teach like this, for free. This is a bigger initiation work for those who really want to do the work, not just get interested and excited, then, they do other things. That's okay. But if you want to go deeper, there is no other way but to constantly magnetize the level where you are at, to create a template, to seal the template, and to create a way of being, but also existing on that template. So you can always be abundant regardless of where you are, and only your life force mastery can do that. So with that statement I gave you in the beginning, which is, well, they're doing that and you can't be supported. What if they take your channel away? What if they do? Is YouTube my source? Are my videos my source? Anything that's outside of me is not the source. The source is the life force that flows through me. This river that I'm showing you today, it's an amazing river gorge. Gorgeous gorge. But it's that which moves through me, that Holy Spirit force of life that always aligns me with what I need to do next. And because we don't always see things the way they are from a higher perspective, we want things right away. Oh, I want to get money, I want to get this, otherwise I'm feeling not supported. It's this trust. It's always on the new level. You're going to have to master a new level of trust. It's how it is. And it's funny, but at the same time, this is deeply true. So when you want to exist as a being of complete freedom, because the thing is, when you only create through your inner orgasmic union, nothing outside of you will be able to manipulate you anymore. So the sentence someone says, well, they're doing this, the dark ones, and it might cause fear in me. Oh, then I won't be supported in this physical plane. What if not? Maybe that's my cue. Maybe it's my cue to leave the planet. I don't know. When you're truly a master, you can choose whatever you want to. We're now talking about, and I talk about myself, about artificial intelligence, and I've just seen now there's a movie from Spielberg coming out, or came out, about AI and virtual reality. And I had this thought, well, what if they are, again, which they do, they're enforcing humanity, that's okay. It's just how the world's going to be. Nothing in the external, no beauty, no nature, no organic life force. It's all going to be inseminated through that artificial, whatever, reproduction of a matrix design. That's a mental construct. People say the universe is mental. Is it really? Maybe partially, but not fully, just mental. So I was looking at that, and I had this thought, well, what if they impose this on everyone? And then I had this thought, well, when you are a master of yourself, of life force, whatever it is, whatever condition, even if it's the worst condition on the planet you can imagine, and it's all just pure warrior, whatever it is, when you're a master, you're always choosing where to go next, because you are a sovereign force of life that directs your freedom, that you're independent from that, and you go where your life force takes you. That's true mastery. Before you have that, you're still going to always associate with the collective. I've shared this with you before, and it's levels and stages of how we align with that, but it's how it is. So when you're a master, you can even choose to leave your body, consciously exit the body. Like in Star Wars, Yoda, the little cute green monster. Well, master, not monster, but he also knew when it is his time. He said, it's time. And he left his body consciously, intentionally, complete ascension. He was an ascended master. There's so much choice. But the limited part of us will think, well, there's only one choice. So if that happens in our reality, we're going to be trapped in that reality. So try maybe, if what I'm talking about is too big for you, and doing these things and being so free, if you're not at that level yet, it's totally understandable. But try at least maybe spend a day or two without your phones and gadgets and safety, and be surrendered to wilderness for a day or two maybe. Get lost somewhere in nature, or allow yourself to go on at least a walk when you don't know where you're going. There's still going to be that fear, oh, what if I lose, what if I get lost, what if this happens? the human fear, if it's not transcended at every level when these gateways occur or are occurring, we're not going to be able to enter this newfound space of magnetization on the new level. The fear has to be surrendered first, then we do the life force mastery cultivation for the magnetization process. So then we draw in at that particular level. We're drawing, the magnetization draws things in. So as the trees are drawing in the bugs, let's say the planet, when it's ready for something, it's drawing in comets to fall, because the planet's saying, I'm magnetizing this towards me. It can also repel it. So it goes through the orbit, and then it shifts and it changes its orbit, and it moves, starts moving away. This is what life force mastery is. As a sovereign being, we are choosing. So whatever is a part of the collective, are we also that? Are these our thoughts? Are these our manifestations? Are these our creations? So this is the message of the solstice. It's about deepening this process, and I hope in the next video I'm going to read you some of these beautiful, interesting paragraphs from the book, which somehow didn't end up in my backpack today, which usually I do, but for a reason it's not. Maybe the video will be too long. I'm greeting you so much, with so much love from this beautiful space. And as always, with so much love, wisdom, power, dedication, devotion to this higher path of knowing true mastery and what it will bring us at each level, at each stepping stone. Thank you. And for those of you who are supporting my work and knowing the value of it in your own lives, without the whole concept of whatever it is, you know, the ego, thank you if you are helping to contribute to the light quotient by also supporting, by donating, sharing. Thank you so much. With so much love, wisdom, and power. Bye.
Come into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.